Hi guys, do you own a camera that is prone to overheating? I have an A6700 here, and this is my ZV-E1, and I absolutely love these two cameras, but they will overheat on me depending on how much stress I put on these bad boys. So here is a little fan that you can stick to the back of the camera, and the question a lot of people have been asking me is, does it work? And the answer is yep. So this adorable little fan is from Ulanzi. Look at the size of this guy. It's a credit card is bigger than this thing. And the way it works is it comes with a little adhesive. Where is that? Little adhesive right here. You peel that off, you stick it to the back of the camera. Two of those come in a pack, and then you don't worry about putting it on your camera. You can peel it right off. It has no residue, but I just leave it on right there. You line up these little suction cups right here with the adhesive, press it in, and you are good to go. You just hold the power button on there, and then it turns on. And look at this. This is very, very cool because it shows you the battery life. It shows you the 3 modes, the off, the fan speed 1 and fan speed 2, but it also shows you the temperature, which I think is very handy because I find when the A6700 and ZV-E1 reach about 40 degrees on the back of the camera, you have to start worrying about it shutting off. But right now it says 19 degrees, so it is just fine. And you see that little USB-C port, that's how you can power it. You can just leave it plugged in, or you can charge it, which is great. This internal battery, you can just leave the fan on without it being plugged into any kind of external power, and it will last 85 minutes on fan mode 1 and 70 minutes on fan mode 2. Now, I will say the two little fans that I have tend to fall off after about 40 minutes. The little suction cups will let go, so I actually get this little elastic band, which I can't put on while I talk. I can't chew bubblegum and talk at the same time. But see, I'll just put this little elastic band on. You can use a zip tie or whatever, just for extra security in case yours falls off. I know other people haven't had theirs falling off, but I don't know, maybe my environment, maybe it's moist here. I don't like that word. But anyway, the fan falls off after about 40 minutes, I find, for me, or about an hour. So I like the extra security of the elastic band. It is a quiet little fan. On mode 1, you can barely hear it. On mode 2, you can hear it a little bit, but it makes less noise than my Ninja 5 recorder, which is on my camera right now. So I think it is more than acceptable. Now, before I read out the times, I will say that talking about overheating is a tricky issue because everybody shoots in a different environment. So what I can do is give you a baseline for my environment with the fan and without the fan, and then you can see how the fan does for the overheating in this particular environment. And at the end, I will give you what I think are the best practices, at least for these Sony cameras, if you want as long record times as possible and you don't have a fan, let's say. So my room conditions, I am in a studio with no airflow. It is sound treated. It is 23 degrees in this studio. I have the cameras on a tripod with their flip screen open, of course, and the internal temperatures set to high. I have also connected an external HDMI monitor through the HDMI port, which tends to heat up those Sony cameras a lot, and I am powering it through USB-C power. I also tried it through the dummy battery instead of USB-C power, and even just the regular battery, and I found that the times really didn't change. So with the A6700 at 4K 24 without the fan, I actually got 2 hours and 10 minutes, which I think is plenty, certainly for my environment. 2 hours and 10 minutes was great, and then I put on the fan, and as you might expect, it just ran continuously. No overheat warning came on at all after a couple of hours. It just kept going and going. I just turned it off after I got bored, but there was no signs of it shutting down at all. So if you put that fan on 4K 24, at least in my environment with the external monitors connected, you're fine. So with 4K 60, I got 40 minutes without the fan, and then with the fan, I got 1 hour and 28 minutes. So a substantial jump in 4K 60. If you want to shoot a lot of 4K 60, then the fan is definitely recommended. Now, when it comes to 4K 120, this really heats up the A6700. So I got 20 minutes without the fan, but then even with the fan, I only got 22 minutes. So just an increase of 2 minutes because that 4K 120 makes the camera so hot, even the fan can't do anything about that. So if you plan to shoot longer then 20 minutes 4K 120, then the fan won't be much help to you at all. Now, a place it is a great help, and it's something that I have the fans for, is streaming. I love to stream from especially the USB-C port, just straight 4K 30 right to my computer. And that, if you have an external monitor connected, then you will get 27 minutes. At least I got 27 minutes of 4K 30 streaming from USB-C. But when I attached the Ulanzi fan, I got unlimited streaming, 4K 30 from the USB-C. And that is one of the things that I really like about the A6700 and the ZV-E1, is to be able to stream 4K 30 straight from the USB-C cord. One cord, and you are good to go. So this little fan keeps it from overheating, and I love that. Now moving on to the ZV-E1, at 4K 24, I got 55 minutes in my studio. There's no airflow. I get longer times if I'm outside with my ZV-E1, but here in my stuffy little studio, I get 55 minutes of continuous recording. When I put on the little Ulanzi fan, I got unlimited recording in 4K 24, which is great. 4K 60, I got 30 minutes on the ZV-E1 here in the studio, and then I applied the fan, and I actually got unlimited 4K 60. I don't know why it didn't overheat at all, but it just kept going 4K 60, unlimited with the ZV-E1. Now, the 4K 120, I got 13 minutes without the fan, and then with the fan, I ended up getting 21 minutes. So a substantial jump in the ZV-E1 when it comes to the 4K 120, but still only about 20 or 21 minutes. So 4K 30 streaming from the USB-C on the ZV-E1. Without the fan, I get about 37 minutes on average, and then with the fan, I got unlimited amount of USB streaming, which is great. It's what I wanted. So now, as promised, I would talk about the best practices for the Sony cameras, even if you don't have a fan and you want the longest record times possible. First and foremost, you have to set the internal temperature to high. You have to go into the menus, make sure internal temperature is set to high. That will make the biggest difference. Then you have to flip out your screen, of course, to let the heat dissipate. You want it on a tripod, and try not to block the entire bottom too. Like some people do these tests, they'll rest it on a couch, something like that. That's no bueno. You gotta put this on a tripod, get as much airflow as you can. And I actually like these. These are from Ulanzi too, these quick release plates, and I love those things, and I have them on all of my cameras. And you see it gives you a nice bit of clearance on the bottom there to help with the airflow. And speaking of airflow, you don't want to put something right up against the camera. So if you have, sound blankets and stuff like that in your studio, you don't want those pressed right up against the camera. Certainly that will create more heat bouncing back here, less airflow. And external monitors, you don't want one connected if you want the longest runtime possible. So what I will often do is, if I'm going to do a long talking head shoot, something like that, I will set up my shot with my external monitor, and then I'll just turn it off and then finish my recording that way. So just to give myself a little extra leeway, and because the HDMI monitors, they really heat up the A6700 and the ZV-E1. Other people have talked about opening the port doors, opening the battery doors. Of course, you can do that. I just find that it really doesn't make much of a difference at all, at least in my environment. Now, some people might say, why go through all the trouble of getting a little fan and attaching it to your camera? Just get a different camera that doesn't overheat. Well, the thing is, I don't want a different camera. I love my A6700 for what it does, and my ZV-E1 for what it does. Like, look at this thing. This is a full frame lens, by the way, at 20mm f2.8. I just reviewed this. I love it, but this is a full frame vlogging setup for me. Tiny little, I love its image quality. 4K 120 on this, 4K 120 on the A6700. The price is right. The stability is great. The form factor is great. I love these cameras for what they do, but occasionally I do want long record times or longer 4K 60. So to have that fan, especially when it comes to streaming at my 4K 30, to have the fan is just something that helps me in those situations, and then I can still utilize these cameras for what I purchased them for. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If you have a camera that overheats on you, I would suggest picking up one of these little things. It doesn't cost very much, and it's nice peace of mind, and it weighs nothing. It's so small. Throw it in your camera bag, leave it there, bring it out when you need to. Anyway, thanks for watching this. We'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.